So, Rebecca, do you remember putting out the call for a raffle for your painting?
Oh my God, I forgot to bring the painting.
But you don't need the painting here with us. You just need to draw from those people. So I have three people.
Three, fantastic.
We have Sarah from Alabama, who is a YouTube member and patron. We have Emma from Stockholm, Sweden.
Oh.
And we have middle tier long-term patron Heather from West Seattle.
God.
So
this is hard.
I was thinking how you could choose, and you could roll a D&D dice.
Oh, yes.
Or you could sing a note.
Oh, God.
And then
I don't want
I could assign different
number?
areas of the the scale to different people.
Are you guys paying for shipping? Because shipping to Sweden is like...
Yeah, we can pay for it. Yeah, Stacy does all that. Because Stacy sends mugs and all sorts of stuff all over the world,
This is very exciting.
So what do you want to do? Do you want to sing a note?
I mean, I want to roll a D&D dice just because I don't want to torture the audience.
Yeah.
And this will have added significance.
If there's three, obviously a 6-sided die, but that's no fun because that's just a normal die.
Look at your
so
dice.
Let's do a 12-sided.
Okay,
and
there's
then
a
divide
number.
by 4.
Oh, God.
So I have 20 different 12-sided dice for you to choose from. Which color would you like? There's also a metal one.
Oh, I want metal.
You want the metal one? Okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to throw it to you.
Oh, God. Good shot. Oh, look at this. It's not only metal, it's like squirrely.
Yeah, it's got death D&D or sort of ruin sort of carvings or something. Anyway, so we'll have Sarah 1 through 4, 5 through 8 will be Emma, and Heather will be 9 through 12. So roll the die.
Oh my God, there's math. There's serious.
I mean, I think I did that right.
Oh, I got a 9.
I got 9. So that's Heather from West Seattle.
Heather! Oh, Heather, Paris in the spring is coming your way. How
so Heather
exciting.
says, I would like to be entered into the raffle for Rebecca's painting, which you mentioned in your episode. So we get to save money on shipping. We could literally...
Shipping to Sweden, I was like, oh my God.
Although paintings...
they're at least flat?
Right. So Stacy has told me all about shipping international, and if it's flat, it's no problem. But a mug... you know what I mean?
No, my tarot decks, I get in very intense conversations with me. They're like, shipping is as much as your product. And I'm like, yes, tarot decks weigh like a pound. I'm sending a pound across the world. But can you give me a deal on shipping? No, I can't, because I also have to wait in line and spend 30 minutes interacting while they fill out all the paperwork.
So tell us about this painting. Why did you want to raffle it off?
Why did I want to raffle it off? I get so much from this podcast, doing this podcast, being here. People give me incredible stuff, and I wanted to give back. And I'm sitting in your coping strategy is your music, and my coping strategy is my art. And I've never done paint by numbers before, and it feels really fun. And I just want to share. I think
it's a great idea.
There'll be more to come, everyone. So if you didn't make it on this raffle...
I'm still waiting for my piece.
Oh.
For my office.
Yeah,
I asked you a couple of years ago.
3 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll get you.
It doesn't have to be super elaborate.
Yeah.
It could be a small little guy, a bigger guy.
Yeah. But definitely painting is my major coping strategy these days. And it sits on my coffee table or my dining room table really for months and months and months. And then I finish it, and then it's fun. It just feels really good to give it away.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think this could be a trend.
I love it. It'd be so good for me to keep going. This is encouraging too. And also my house is small and is filling up quickly.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think you understand. I hope you... Well, I don't know what I hope. People love you. And so to have a painting by you, a physical thing, is a huge deal for people. It'd be like having a painting from your favorite actor or director or singer, or you know what I mean?
That's overwhelming and weird, but I'll roll with it. I mean, I feel the love back. Like I have the little crocheted duck. Do you remember those from last year? I have that sitting on my bedside table, and it's time for me to put up my Hanukkah lamaka thing that I got.
Lamaka?
If you remember this, I got somebody made me a llama Hanukkah wall hanging.
Oh yeah. Right. It was like a mobile or something.
It was flat, but it was like quilted. It was very funny.
Okay.
And there's nothing for Hanukkah, so whenever I get anything, I'm like, Hanukkah, Lamaka, or whatever's going on here.
Yeah. I apologize for my Christmas tree. That's right.
Oh, don't even
right by your head.
This is your face.
It's actually a Rebecca birthday celebration tree.
The older I get, the chiller I am, but also the more I know how to avoid it. Oh, but wow, this is really a Seattle tree. You've got your Rainier beer ornament. You've got some kind of Asian noodle thing going on. You've got your Washington State. Mm-hmm. This is a very impressive Seattle, Washington tree. You've got your Hello Kitty ornament.
Yeah.
You've got a turntable ornament. That's like really impressive. I'm trying, I volunteered at a holiday crafts fair, and I was unprepared that our plant selling booth was right in front of the entertainment area. And so there was a rather large intergenerational ukulele band. I'd say there was 20 ukuleleists but like from like 15 to 80 years old.
Half Asians, and they did Christmas songs on the ukulele for 45 minutes. Oh, boy.
It was very entertaining.
At least it's quaint.
It was so cute and lovely.
Speaking of music and your birthday, I have an early birthday present for you. I got you some...
Oh, my God. That was my favorite album. Have we talked about this?
No.
Oh, God.
I also got... Suzanne Vega and Michelle Shocked.
Oh, wow. So,
do you like Michelle Shocked?
I do. She got a little weird in her older age and fell out of favor in the queer community. But I love this album. Yeah, we don't need to go into what happened. But this album, this Suzanne Vega, the first, I can sing you the entire first. I can sing Marlena on the Wall.
So you don't have these albums?
I don't have these albums.
Oh, I was hoping you wouldn't.
Marlena on the Wall, her mocking smile says it all. She records the rise and fall of every soldier laughing, but is it soldier or person now is me. I'm fighting things I cannot see. I think it's called my destiny that I am changing.
What happened with Michelle Shocked? I'm shocked to hear about Michelle Shocked.
She got kind of strange and was like saying she was spoofing homophobia by playing this kind of homophobic character, and it really turned off her audience, and she wouldn't back
She's not really known for comedy exactly.
Yeah, I'm summarizing it badly. This is like 20 years ago, but obviously these two albums, this Tracy Chapman came out at the same time. Edie Brickell came out at the same time. Like there was just this huge...
Indigo Girls were sort of at their zenith.
Yeah, like this was such an interesting time for music that women could sing complex songs and not... It wasn't so focused on their physical image like it is now.
Tracy Chapman is gay?
Yes.
Did you get that from her presentation in the 80s?
We claimed her. She's so shy. She would never claim... She's never been open, but she was so androgynous. She was always in like a button-down shirt and pants, no makeup. Her songs were of the queer genre of like deeply soulful and hurting. They weren't poppy love songs about men. No,
I'm surprised that it was a top 40 hit, her two big hits. Her second hit was more kind of a standard
but it's the number song. One Fast Cars is the number one karaoke song in the world. I think after Sweet Caroline. Yeah, or it's one of the most popular songs of the American Songbook.
I don't know if I've ever heard of someone karaoke.
Oh, really?
That song.
Well, so that guy who won the Grammy became a country song last year. That white big country guy, covered it. Do you know this whole thing?
No.
Was this 2 years ago? He covers Fast Cars, makes it a country song. It becomes like a #1 hit. He really claims her as like, look, this is a song that we sung all the time growing up. Like,
Jesus, how does MAGA feel about
well,
a black
and then,
lesbian?
did you see the Grammy performance where they duet the song?
No.
And she just like radiates. I don't know, like she's pulling from the earth.
I feel like I'm going to cry because
we should stop recording. We should watch it and then we should talk some more.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So we just watched it. Yeah, it's really sweet.
God.
And if I were by myself, I would just be bawling. But I have to hold it together to be a professional podcaster. I have effectively unleashed my tears as a man, and I have a very, quick road, a short road to crying. In that when I was younger, I tried to not ever cry, and I effectively stopped that instinct from happening, such that horrible things would happen to me, and I would say, I'm pretty sure I should be crying right now, and I'm not crying. And so in my 20s, I set out to re-engage with my humanity, and I've effectively done it such that every day there's, probably a dozen times that I cry about something. There's just a lot to be sad about. But also just, I don't know how to describe the sort of crying when I listen to that song, or when I think about a country artist that embraces a black lesbian on, in a song and brings her on stage and stuff. Like, the sadness of what it says about people who don't do that sort of thing, but also the glory and the joy. And music makes me cry all the time. My own songs make me cry. Some of my own songs, when I'm singing them, I can't get through them because I'll just like start bawling because there's just, I don't know, it's emotional, right? So, yeah, good for him.
Yeah. Well, and I'm on a new. I'm getting estrogen now through a patch. Change it every Monday, and man, the tears are just flowing. And like I've had to warn everybody, like clients. I'm like, you may see me tear up, like a way in which I'd been able to like shut it down for a long time. Whatever's in this new estrogen patch, it's like it's not crying in session, crying in songs, movies, commercials, crying with friends.
Any other effects?
It's any other effects.
Are you suddenly watching a lot of rom-coms?
No. So the symptom that was worrying my doctor was how much joint pain I was having. And that has lessened.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, let's get to an email here.
Yeah.
Middle tier patron Waylon from Bremerton, he says, Dear Rebecca, and also Kirk, but particularly Rebecca.
Oh, boy. Okay.
He says, I'm a 43-year-old cisgender gay male living in Bremerton. Bremerton is near Seattle. I currently have a therapist whom I've been seeing for a little over a year and a half at a mental health agency. I really like him. We've made a lot of progress on my issues concerning attachment and emotional regulation. However, since he is a straight man, there are still some things I don't feel completely comfortable speaking openly with him about. Next year, I will graduate from Olympic College and move to Seattle, and I'll need to find another therapist. My thought is that I should try to look for someone who specializes in sex therapy so I can try to work through some of my issues surrounding intimacy and the sexual trauma that I experienced while I was in active addiction. A queer therapist would be preferable, although not necessarily a requirement. I am on Medicaid, Washington, Apple Health. Are sex therapists usually only are sex therapists usually only worked with on a short-term basis, or is there a good rapport, or if there's a good rapport, can they become a long-term therapist as well? End of email. And sorry for my dyslexia. So, Rebecca, how can Waylon find a queer sex therapist, or I would extend the category to a queer therapist, maybe a gay guy is what I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Who
is on Apple Care.
who will accept Medicaid and AppleCare, which will, I think in Washington has to be at an agency, right?
Yeah, I think it's gonna make it tough, but not impossible.
In Seattle, there's various agencies, right?
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with the changing names.
Oh, they change so often.
Yeah.
But yes.
But yeah, just call the agencies in the area of Seattle.
And you can say you're looking for a gay male therapist or a queer affirming. I'm always tentative with that term because we want to make sure that people actually know what the culture is, not just saying like I took one class on gayness and now I want to work with gay clients. But I want to caveat the other way, which is that people who come to me for sex therapy and in the supervision I'm getting with your friend Jennifer, is sex therapy is really long-term work. I was unprepared at how long people will come easily. I'm brand new to this, but almost everyone who started with me is still with me. It's long-term work. It's really slow. I've never felt more permission to work slower and not feel in a rush. I think when someone comes to me with anxiety for decades now, I've been like, in 10 sessions, you'll definitely feel better. In sex therapy, I can't say that.
I'm actually glad you're saying that because that's my experience as well. There's just so much to untangle, and it involves so many different things. I mean, it depends on what the factors that are leading to long-term therapy, right? Because a lot of people come to therapy with a lot of ongoing kinds of relationship, sexuality, identity, mild trauma, mild meaning that it's not PTSD that they're suffering from. It's a lifetime of relational traumas or, sexual traumas that are affecting their schemas and their reactivity and stuff. Anyway, so there's a lot of things, but even if in my experience, if we just focus on the outcome of improving one's sex life as a couple or as an individual, I have found that takes years.
Yeah, and so many things have to happen. I mean, some people want to explore on their own, and that's fine. But some people are looking to explore with another person, and that makes things all that more complicated. That, they go and then have the experience that we've been working on talking about, and then they have the experience and maybe it doesn't go well. And then that opens a whole new level of exploration. So I would say most sex therapists, I would hope, are comfortable with long-term work and that there's a flux, right? Sometimes we're talking about sexuality, but sometimes we're talking about all of the family of origin or attachment issues, substance abuse, job stress. There's so many things that go into why shame is coming up while you're not feeling great in your body. I'm doing all this extra reading, prepping for this class I'm going to teach. I'm going to teach a 15-week class on human sexuality, remote, for Yeshiva University next semester, starting in January. So I'm reading a ton, and it's...
Is this for students enrolled in that program?
Yes.
Okay. So randos can't sign up.
Yes, but I am beginning to learn so much and have so much fun that I'm wondering if I could offer this as a course.
Yeah.
Did you set up your thingy yet? Can I do it for you?
What thingy? Did I talk about a workshop that I was doing?
Yeah. Well, I guess I always have this fantasy that you'll create some kind of workshopnet.com.
Well, the logistics aren't that hard. I could maybe help. We could certainly advertise it on the podcast, but it's just a matter of collecting fees and having names of people that are registered and have paid for the course, right?
Yeah.
So
because I'm creating 15 PowerPoints at once, and I am creating 15 one-hour lectures, and there's readings and podcasts, and I'm like, oh, this probably the general person would get a lot out of this class.
Yeah, I did a workshop for Healthy Gamer, Dr. K, if you're familiar, and some of you listening might have even attended. It was mostly attended by people that didn't know me, which was nerve-wracking on some level, but it re-engaged. I don't know about you, but so my experience of doing the workshop was that at first I thought, well, I've been teaching for 30 years. It can't be that hard. And I was kind of adapting a class that I had taught before. So I thought I didn't really need that much time to prep for it. But as I got into it, and I thought I was done prepping. And then a few nights before I was scheduled to do the workshop, it was just a 4-hour workshop. It's not even that big of a deal, really, when I think about it. I mean, as a professor, classes were 3 hours long every week. So it's just routine. But maybe 2 nights before, I was lying in bed trying to fall asleep, and I started thinking about the workshop, and I was reminded of all the things that my mind is occupied with when I'm a professor. There's just so many little so here I'm curious what you think about this. So because you've had a similar kind of experience stepping away from full-time work at the university. So I'm having a hard time figuring out where to begin. So I had a mini anxiety attack that night because I suddenly realized the workshop that I had prepared was horrible. Oh, no. And I was like, shit, I only have a couple but I spent like 20 hours a day for the next 2 days. And I completely scrapped the whole thing and started over. And I was so happy I did because the workshop went really, really well. I thought, from feedback, it sounds like things went well too. But I was anxious because as a podcaster, people pay money to listen, but it's not that much per month, sort of a thing, for most people. But the workshop was, I wasn't selling the tickets. It was Dr. K, Healthy Gamer people. But it was hundreds of dollars for a 4-hour workshop. And I felt very beholden to, deliver on the value of that, especially for people that didn't really know me that well, right? I mean, they're not going to give me the benefit of the doubt, right? Plus, even if you are a fan of the podcast, you've been hearing me talk about the fact that I've been a professor for this whole time. You're probably thinking, well, he better knock it out of the fucking park. Yeah. So, but I afterwards thought, what was that all about? And what I thought was, I've always marveled that us professors, I don't know about you, but I never took a class on how to teach.
No.
Yeah. Most of us hadn't, right? That we're all professors, some would say at the highest level of education, right? And yet we've never taken class. I mean, kindergarten teachers take classes on teaching. And I'd never taken a class. I'd never taken, no one had ever said anything to me. Even my bosses wouldn't really tell me how to teach, I just figured it out and trial and error. And as a student, I would note what I liked and didn't like, that sort of thing. And after 25, 30 years of teaching, and I was very nerdy about teaching. I took it very seriously. I worked a lot harder than I had to. I taught family of origin for 27 years, almost every quarter or frequently. And yet every time I taught it, I was revising the curriculum. Why? Even though, not to toot my own horn, but the student satisfaction that they fill out the form at the end of the course, I was, at the top. So why would I be changing it? I could be messing it up, but I just couldn't help it because, I just really care and I'm nerdy about it. So every quarter, every term, as I'm teaching, I'm fine-tuning over years and years, and I'm developing my own principles, my own themes, my own rules, my own tenets, my own little tips, my own little ways, my own, from everything from like how you prep that morning before class, how you lead the class, how you lead a discussion, how you keep people engaged, how you keep people from falling asleep, how you organize the class to make it interesting and deep, but not too deep that it causes people to fall asleep. How do you account for a wide range of sophistication on the students? Some people you really need to hold their hand, and other people they're advanced. They already know half the stuff. So how do you appeal to everyone at the same time? How do you create an experience that really justifies it being a class rather than a book that they're reading? You know what I mean? And so since I haven't been teaching, for a couple years, a lot of that had, unbeknownst to me, faded into the background. And as I was preparing for the workshop, I had this overconfidence that it's like, well, I know what I'm doing. And I had developed that first draft of the workshop, and it was complete shit because I hadn't realized how many little skills or, habits that I had developed because of no class. I didn't have any formal learning. And I had this sudden realization at 3 a.m. in bed of just like, oh my God, I now remember all those principles that are sort of coming into focus finally because I've been doing this workshop, and none of my workshop is in line with those principles. Have you ever had that experience?
I mean, I would say definitely I'm always tweaking. The menopause workshop, I tweak after every time I do it. Every group is so different. The last time I taught it, everyone had these incredibly complicated questions about cancer and estrogen. And I just had to say over and over again, like, I'm so sorry, I don't know the answer to that question. And like, probably there's like 1% of doctors out there that could answer this really specific medical questions. But it's like, I'm always learning as people ask me things. And now what's so interesting about teaching this class so soon after going through the training myself is it's very fresh of like, how would someone learn this? So I'm having this experience where I'm prepping ahead of time, right? Like doing the readings for the class, and a quote will just pop out at me and I'll like rush to my computer and make a PowerPoint slide. But it's just really interesting. Like one of them was, when doing sex therapy with men may need several sessions to integrate that their emotions, just what you just said about being a man, that a lot of things are connected to how you feel in bed. And I was like, oh my God, like that's so true. Like I had to go and make a slide about that. Or there was just, I was reading something by the female Gottman of the Gottmans.
Julie.
Was that, what was it? There is nothing worse for sexual pleasure than anxiety. And she was talking about just the physiology of it, how your blood flow changes and your breathing changes and all of, maybe not sexuality, but intimacy. And I was like, oh God, I got to make a slide about that. So there's a way in which like things are firing differently now. Whereas when I began teaching art therapy, I had been an art therapist for a while. And I would say it took me many times of teaching the class of like how to slow it down, how to break it down, so that someone who'd never been aware of this concept before in their lives could sit with it.
Yeah.
And then, every student brings something different. There's a different resistance. There's a different cultural knowledge. So, and it's really different when you're stepping into having taught, where you kind of build a rapport with a group of people, as to the things that both you and I are doing now, which is that you have a one-time experience with complete strangers.
Right.
In a distracted age.
Yeah.
So it's like maybe their cameras aren't even on, and, only there's like 50 people in the room, but only 2 people are participating.
Yeah.
So I would say the dynamics of teaching have changed so much.
Right. Yeah, there were hundreds of people in the thing. And
that's so anxiety producing. The biggest workshop I've ever done is for 50 people. And it was like, oh my God, there's 50 people out there watching me, like that just feels like a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. No. It was, but I was happy. I felt good about it. I had these parts of the workshop where I would ask someone to volunteer and give an example, and it was always someone new, and it was fascinating to do. It's always rolling the dice. You don't know who's going to raise their hand and what they're going to say, and if they're going to be understood or off topic or too rambly or something. And none of them were. It was all, I thought, it just went perfectly, I thought. Anyway, let's take a break. We get back.
Did we answer that guy's question? Good
well,
enough.
yeah. I mean, you go to an agency because that's the only places in Washington State that will take Medicaid, and then I would just literally ask them exactly what you just asked us. You prefer. I'm guessing you didn't say this. You said a queer therapist, but I'm guessing a gay man therapist would be specific because you are wanting to talk about gay male sexuality, and having a therapist that at least has some ability to overlap with your experiences is important. A sex therapist, finding a gay male sex therapist might actually be kind of hard at an agency.
But I think that any gay male therapist, I would hope, would be able to help you.
Right. And if you can't find that, then maybe finding any therapist. I don't know if a male therapist would be helpful.
And just a moment of grief for myself that the fact that Seattle Counseling Services for Sexual Minorities closed.
Yeah.
So there used to be a place for you to go, and as dynamics and funding changed, there's no specific gay counseling agency in Seattle anymore.
Yeah, I thought that was so weird when that happened. It was a couple of years ago, right? And I thought, I tried to read as much of the reporting around it. I even asked some of my friends who were associated with it, and I could not figure out why, because from my understanding is they still had a lot of clients and a lot of...
I think the funding sources had changed, though. They couldn't... It was due to money, from what I had heard.
Huh. But there's so many people who want that kind of... Especially since you can do online now, and you can see someone in all of Washington, right? You don't have to live in the Seattle area. It just seemed... I don't know, but I just felt like... I wonder if... someone that worked in the finance side could point in a direction of just like, how did that fail? And then the other thought I had was, well, back in the day, if you were queer, then you could, in all likelihood, just going to a random therapist would not be good for you. So you needed an agency that was specifically for that. But in today's world, it's less worrisome for queer people to just pick a therapist out of the phone book, sort of thing. So that I thought, well, maybe that was part of the problem. It's sort of a good thing that people can go anywhere now because the agency started in the 60s or 70s or something.
Yeah, but the saddest thing for me is that they ran so many groups, and no one's picking that up. So like groups for partners of people who are coming out as trans, group for survivors, specifically queer survivors, like all of, substance abuse specifically for a queer lens, and all of that's just gone.
Yeah, it's an institution that, I was pretty sad that it was gone too. All right, let's take a break. We get back. There's some more emails for Rebecca Sode. What do you say?
I'm ready.
All right, back from the break. Long-term anonymous patron, she says, "Hi, Dr. Kirk and Rebecca. I had my first manic episode last year." Making sure I'm reading the right email here. Yeah, I had my first manic episode last year, and I've been on antipsychotic medications since then. I was lucky in that the first med they tried worked. On this med, I don't experience paranoia or excessive worry, and I feel more grounded than I probably ever have. I sleep way more than I used to, which I guess is fine. I have accepted that I need to stay on this med. So just chiming in, I'm guessing that the sleepiness or the amount of hours sleeping is a lot, maybe more than 8 hours a day kind of a thing going on. I'm devastated, however, because it has completely diminished my libido and I haven't been able to orgasm at all. So I went from experiencing orgasms with my partner multiple times per week to 0 times per year so far. I don't really know what my question is. I guess I'm just hoping you can talk about coping with grieving the loss of sexuality, coming to acceptance of what is, and trying to have a fulfilling sex life without orgasms. Thanks for your work. This podcast has been beyond helpful. Rebecca, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, sexual changes with illness, it's a huge grieving process that you've lost something so very, very special. So I would view this from a grief and loss lens. Know that you're not alone. I mean, there's usually this is talked about with cancer and sex. That's how we were trained to deal with looking at the loss of sexuality through cancer treatment. But yeah, it's a huge change. And then how do you find pleasure outside of that context of what used to be pleasurable, right? You have to go down a whole new road. And so the pathway to this is often sensate focused, which was developed by Masters and Johnson, which has you explore touch in a very slow manner to rediscover kind of what is pleasurable for you in this new, like, let's just admit, I mean, this is what I say in my menopause training, like, let's just admit this is a whole new body. Like, you have to kind of start over and rediscover, and it's not what you once had. But it could be something joyful and new and different. Obviously, it's, kudos for you for wanting to stay away from a manic episode. There's lots of evidence that the more you have, the worse they get. And it's harder to bounce back. So I understand the amount of grief you're going through. And if I'm wondering how you want to honor that. And then there's all kinds of workshops and trainings and things out there to rediscover what sex is now. The other one is Tantra, if you want to kind of explore a kind of spiritual connection to sex. There's all kinds of breath work out there. But you're going to have to kind of step into a new body, and that's never easy. And it sounds like your partner's very understanding, which is great.
Yeah. I don't have much to add to that because that is a great response. It's a known side effect from antipsychotics to have libido and orgasm changes. What I will say is, I don't know if you're experiencing this, anonymous patron, but when you talk with medical professionals and maybe even therapists or just people, lay people, they tend to reduce the whole experience to libido. It just gets shoved into the same category, but there's a lot of different types. Because it sounds like your libido isn't necessarily suffering; it's just the orgasm part of it, and that they can be very different things. You can have at least a similar libido, a desire, a drive to have sex, and you get some physical pleasure, but the ramp up towards orgasm is just not there for whatever reason. That sort of feeling, it's hard to put into words. It's a subjective feeling, but there's a ramp up or a sort of heat or burn or whatever that sort of thing that you feel as you start to head up towards orgasm and then actual orgasm. And that nuanced conversation might not be happening, and it can be frustrating sometimes. I don't know if that's your experience, but yeah, I mean, grief is, as you're putting it, Rebecca and anonymous patron, is the task at hand, and it sucks. The other thing I'll say is that I'm not hearing that orgasms are off the table for you. It's just with your partner. So if you're still able to have orgasms by yourself, then that opens a door to a lot of stuff you can do together. Whatever you're doing by yourself, you could do with your partner, potentially. I don't know. And maybe even there's a way to do what you're doing to yourself with your partner, if that makes any sense. Like, it's just a lot of things you can do. Get creative, I suppose. So I don't know if that's what I'm hearing.
Well, and you're making me think she's flashing into my mind so intensely. Do you know who Annie Sprinkle is?
Yes.
The orgasm. She like introduced the world to squirt, to the fact that women can squirt.
Oh, no, that's
Okay.
not who I'm thinking of. Did you say her name is Annie Sprinkle?
Yes, her name is Annie Sprinkle. Huh. And she's been making porn.
Well, if she was born with that name, of course.
No, I don't think it's...
I know, I'm joking.
So she has been making porn since the 70s and has gone through many stages. And she's currently in her ego sex stage with her partner, Beth. And for 10 or 20 years now, they've been producing large-scale performance pieces. They teach a class together at Santa Cruz where the final class is everyone goes down to the Santa Cruz beach, and if you want to, you can have sex with the Pacific Ocean. But it's...
Talk about Sprinkle.
But I love her work. I love introducing people to her work because she so much broadens what sexuality could be and sensuality and pleasure, and that, maybe if you have sex with the Pacific Ocean, you're not getting to orgasm, but your whole body is involved.
How do you have sex with the ocean?
This is you can read her book. She would be a great podcast guest if you could ever get her on. But this idea of everything I'm learning as I train as a sex therapist is what is sensuality? What is openness? What is openness with another person? These are the big questions when I don't know what it's like around the world, but we live in a real wham, ma'am, thank you, ma'am culture. Sex is penis and vagina, that maybe the man orgasms, but who cares what happens to the woman, And if we can open that up wider to maybe you don't get to orgasm, but your skin, all of your skin feels completely alive. And at the end, you feel a tremendous amount of intimacy with your partner. That's a real good time right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, let's take another break. We get back, another email. What do you say?
Yeah, everyone go look up Annie Sprinkle.
All right, back from the break.
I'm still chewing, sorry, everyone.
Yeah.
bites,
Rebecca's having a snack.
Pineapple, passion fruit, no added sugar, just fruit, nothing else.
Maybe push the microphone away from your face while you do that, because it bothers some people. I'm sort of off and on with that with podcasters that are eating. Sometimes it really bothers me. Other times it doesn't. Would it bother you to hear people eating? Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Super long-term patron, Rachel. Super long-term, which is 6+ years. In fact, Rachel, I met and have known her for years. She came to one of our live performances, I think our very first one. And
10
she
plus
lives,
years ago.
She lives in the area. She says, "Hi, Dr. Kirk and team. I recently earned my master's degree in counseling, and I am now working in community mental health, providing mental health services to older adults in nursing facilities. Mm-hmm. In school, my emphasis was in couple, marriage, and family, and I really wanted to get into trauma work. So I didn't anticipate working with this population, older adults. Of course, I'm excited to learn and provide therapy in this position, but I'm a little worried that I haven't thought about or understood what it would be like to work with elderly folks and typical issues that arise. Do you have any insight into working with this population? By the way, this podcast has been a shining beacon in my studies and career, so I appreciate any information you can provide. Thanks for all you do." Well, first off, Rachel, I will say congratulations.
Yeah.
I have, you and I have been talking off and on for years, and I'm glad to hear that you're now in the field. Welcome to the field. So what is your advice for someone that is working with older adults, Rebecca?
So there's a couple things that happened. I mean, you're talking about lifespan work. You're talking about life phase. So it feels like the theme of today is grief and loss. So often it is grief and loss. I mean, somebody who is in a facility like this might be distanced from family, might be distanced from partners, might be distanced from their community. Many, many things have changed. You're also trying to keep people socialized and active. That's, I believe, one of the number one factors to mental health and aging is community. So that's why these places offer so many activities during the day to try and get people to do that. Often you're dealing with chronic health issues that have a profound impact on people's quality of life. So that's another piece. There's the loss of freedom piece. If you're in one of these facilities, you can't come and go as you please. Maybe you can. Yeah, so there's a lot here. And then if we go further into the process, if you're dealing with Alzheimer's or dementia, that's a whole other ball of wax where you are in a low and slow environment, creating a very calm space for people who can become very agitated very quickly.
Yeah.
So there's geriatric mental health is desperately needed. It's the largest growing population in America, I think. And it is super long-term work, usually. I know a ton of people have done it. I did a little bit of it when I worked for, do you know this? I worked for J.L. Chihuly's nonprofit, Seniors Making Art, and I went into senior living facilities all up and down Seattle.
I remember you talking about working with older adults.
Yeah. And I was just there to be the art therapist. I was just there to lead a watercolor painting class, which was fascinating because you'd get people at all levels of functioning. But yeah, it's really about maintaining some kind of quality of life, as many factors are creating all kinds of pressure. And financial, part of my menopause workshop is I do a whole section on financial issues for older women. They get less Social Security, they live longer, their medical expenses are higher. Yeah, so there's this area is rich.
Yeah.
I think the UW used to offer a geriatric mental health certificate. I don't know if they still do that.
Yeah, good response. The only thing I'll add is that I find the same things that people want to talk about are present with older people. I think that we tend to think of elderly people as beyond those issues, right? Of the kinds of, like if you have a 25-year-old that comes in and says that they want to process a childhood experience, or they want better relationships, or they have low self-esteem, we think, okay. But if you have an 80-year-old, we think, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, or
so not true.
or what's the point? They don't have that much longer on this planet anyway. Are we really going to change things? None of that is true. Especially with baby boomers, that generation today. They likely have never been in therapy before, or very little, and so think of them as just a regular human who is needing therapy, and don't pigeonhole them as people that are beyond or different or something like that. All right, another email.
So I just want to say, did you watch The Inside Man with Ted Danson?
No.
So it's really awesome. And in the first season, he's a widower. He's lost his wife to Alzheimer's. He's looking for something to do, and he gets sucked into this, or he takes a job with a private investigator where she places him to live in an elder care facility. And they do such a great job of all of the issues that everybody is facing.
Interesting.
And even addressing one of the main characters dies in the season. That's a huge factor with aging adults, is that you're losing people constantly.
Yeah.
So the grief and loss is always really present. But if you haven't watched it, dear listener, I would highly recommend it. The second season also has the most poignant, heartfelt Thanksgiving episode I have ever seen, that I think every marriage and family therapist should watch. But it really addresses partnering again. The second season really addresses what it's like as an older person to partner again, and all of the complications that come with that.
Have you watched Death by Lightning?
No. How is it?
I loved it. I mean, it's
a short. It's
a 4-episode series.
Okay.
That's historical dramatization of President Garfield and his election, and what happens to him, and
like the
and people
most
around
named
him.
after high school, Roosevelt, Garfield, those guys all got Franklin, those guys all got high schools.
Right. So, as a history nerd, it's a big deal to me because I've known about this story, but not to this detail, and to have a pretty interesting American history story depicted with such care and with really great actors. Michael Shannon, was that his name? Shannon, the guy. He's a great actor.
Yes,
I
the guy with the mustache.
No, you're thinking of Ron Swanson, Nick Offerman, but I think his name's Michael Shannon. Anyway, it has a bunch of great actors, and I feel like, though, I worried that, and the name of the series is weird, Death by Lightning. It sounds like it's going to be about electricity or something, right? But
does he die by lightning?
No, so it's a quote of President Garfield's where he is being asked to have a security detail, and he's like, "Oh, don't worry about it. I mean, as soon as you get worried about being assassinated, it's like you can have death by lightning. It doesn't matter."
And he is assassinated.
Yeah. And they depict the assassin and his storyline as well, and that's really well acted by the guy. Was in Succession. He's been in other things too.
I love it. Like, as we aged, we just names are like, who,
Well, I don't know if I ever knew the guy's name. Anyway, I loved it, but I feel like if people are going to watch it, they probably should bone up on the history a little bit because they don't really walk you through it very well.
All right.
You know what I mean? Anyway.
Did you see the 5-episode release of Stranger Things season 5?
No, I want to wait until all the episodes are out. Yeah.
Yeah, we binged it in 2 days.
Is it good?
I loved it, but I know I'm sappier than you are, and there's things that I love that you don't love.
Well,
so
I'm worried because every season got worse to me. The first season I was obsessed with.
Yeah.
And the second season I was all on board, but when I look back, I'm like, it's getting too big, too many characters. The first season is so perfect.
So there's one storyline that I think they're kind of missing the boat on, but there's a couple of things. The fashion, so it's 1987, and Robin's jacket alone, she has like this triple shoulder padded jacket that's so amazing. The product placement stuff is just ridiculous. I don't know. And I just realized they're young. For some reason, I didn't realize. I thought they were our age and like had grown up in this. But to know that it's all like they're pulling from God knows where.
Yeah, the Duffer Brothers are, I think they're in their 40s or something.
Yeah, they're twins. I just learned that. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But like they do things like their high school acting teacher plays the 4th grade teacher in the show. Like they've just done a bunch of unique things. But there's this queer storyline of Robin and Will, of Will watching Robin be queer and coming to her with questions about queer identity, and then him exploding out of his shell into himself and changing the whole trajectory of the show. I hope I'm not spoiler alerting anything about this. But that I'd never seen on TV before, I think. And I think it's because we've known the characters for so long. Like we've watched, especially Will, like you've watched him grow up on the show. I loved it. And it really ties in the nostalgia of all the seasons. But I was like, I think it's coming out Christmas Day, and I'm not a big fan of Christmas, and I was like, I can't wait till Christmas Day.
Well, I think there's a final episode on New Year's Day.
Yeah, well, and they're putting it out in the movies, if you want to go.
And this episode might air actually around New Year's, by the way. So yeah, I don't know. I'll definitely watch it because.
Well, you have that huge TV. I can't even imagine. Yeah. There's one of the. there's a couple of moments on that show. I don't watch a lot of horror, so it's like, that's the scariest, grossest thing I've ever seen. There's this one Vecna moment, and people who've watched the show will know where I'm talking about, where he goes in through someone's head and comes out their eyes, where I was like, damn. And it's totally gratuitous. It doesn't need to happen.
Yeah.
But I was like, those guys think up some really vicious stuff.
Yeah. Well, and that's also 80s, the rise of the horror movie and of the grossness of some of those movies. Anyway, YouTube member, long-term patron Megan from New York, she says, "Hi, Dr. Kirk,
New York
Umberto,
City,
Bob, and Rebecca. I've been listening to the podcast several years now, and it has gotten me through some tough times, but I've never written in. Today, I had an experience that I wanted to tell you about and get your thoughts on. I have always identified as liberal. I lean liberal on all social issues, and these ideals are important to me as a member of the LGBTQ community. That said, I've been beginning to see some flaws in our approach to the other side. I made a post on social media today urging people to rethink the social ostracization of people on the other side of the political spectrum. I argued in this post that isolating people only leads them to retreat into their own echo chambers and become more radicalized. I stated my thoughts that this approach hasn't worked and that we need to rethink our approach to these people. Within minutes, my comments section and DMs were full of people on the left telling me to kill myself, calling me a white supremacist and a homophobe, and threatening me with violence and doxing. These were people on my own side of the political spectrum, including self-identified Antifa members. I fear this kind of escalation only pushes away potential allies, independents and centrists, etc. I feel that this kind of rhetoric only works in the favor of the right wing. I had to reluctantly take down my post because of how bad it got, but I don't like that I had to do that. How will things ever change if we can't communicate? How will we ever get anything accomplished? I feel discouraged, anxious, and afraid. I also feel hopeless that the left will never regain our footing because of this extremism. Mm-hmm. Rebecca, what do you think?
Yeah, not everyone is capable of compromising on ideas. I think, I grew up in a very leftist household that also really believed in connecting across the aisle and compromise. And I have seen in the last 10, 15 years, this inability for anyone to compromise or be in conversation and just really what she's talking about, yelling threats at each other. It's my hope that you can meet and be with people who aren't that intense. Also on social media, people will say all kinds of crap. Like, it's really wild how there's, I guess the word of 2025 is rage baiting. We can be really quick to anger, and there's all kinds of things I don't post on social media because I really don't want to be in discussion with people about things that, this is how I live my life. Or it's been really interesting to have conversations with people, queer people, where I say, I'm about to teach at a conservative Jewish institution. And people say back to me, I couldn't do that. I couldn't sit with someone that doesn't live the life that I live. And I say back, it's really important for me that I get a chance to step in and have really complex conversations with people who might think differently than me. I might not change any minds over that course, but I also might. Is compromise dead? Do we only just threaten each other when you're more in the middle of this than I am?
Yeah, I don't know. It's tempting to think that we're different now, but occasionally I'll get glimpses of the past, or I'll remember things that happened in the past and realize that it's not really that different. And when we look at research, it seems to indicate that. It feels worse now, but it always feels worse now. And it might be worse now, but it's hard to measure.
I think being subjected to it 24/7 is worse now.
Yeah, because of social media. But I think it's particular social media. Like when I talk about political things, I don't usually, but some things are like we did a deep dive on neo-Nazis, for example. And we didn't get that kind of attack because podcasting and long form YouTube videos are long form. So the caveats and the explanations and the care that is taken to fully flesh something out. Whereas on Twitter or Facebook, or I don't know if Instagram is like this, but even TikTok in the comment section, it just has a culture of people don't want to have nuance because it takes too long to type out, or
Right.
they also, there's an encouragement of rage baiting or of being extreme in your statements because no one wants to read long comments, and so they're just looking for that comment to upvote that is on their side. You know what I mean? And it's a feedback loop because more people are seeing these extreme comments that don't really represent people's full opinions, but because people just don't have time, and on Twitter or on TikTok or something, and there's upvoting, then people that are watching it are pushed in a direction either toward that comment or away from that comment because they see the top comment that has thousands of upvotes has this extreme point of view. So if you don't agree with, so you have all these people that are more towards the middle, right? They see that comment. If they're more in alignment with, say the extreme comment was on the liberal side, but it's an extreme liberal comment. As a liberal myself, I'll just say that when I see that and it has thousands of upvotes, then I'm like, oh, is that what I'm supposed to think? Mm-hmm. Am I wrong to not think that? And then if you're more on the other side of the aisle, if you're more conservative, you see that comment and you're just like, oh my God, those guys are idiots. And now we got to clap back and we got to be extreme back at them. I mean, that's bullshit and it hurts, And I've been saying this from the very beginning. I remember when Trump was elected, there was a lot of talk that was happening in my circle in Seattle and at Antioch. We would go to class and it was a topic that people would bring up in 2016. And the thing that I would often be telling people is, we have to understand the system, because as a couple therapist, I see this all the time, that people will get hurt. They don't say they're hurt. They will get angry and rejecting or critical. And in my office, I'm seeing a couple and they've been going down this road. They didn't start this way. They were more in alignment in the beginning, in love, or at least able to work things out. And they get hurt, but they don't say that hurts my feelings. What they say is, this is bullshit, you're a narcissist or something like that. And then the other person says that no, and they're hurt. But in saying, wow, that hurts my feelings, they say, well, you're gaslighting me. And then, things escalate from there. It's a well understood thing that I see in my office all the time. And in order to help people work these things out, it's a matter of getting at the hurt so people can begin to trust and have empathy provoked on the other side, right? If you're always angry, if you're only getting anger from your spouse, then it doesn't provoke an empathy. Whereas if they say, you hurt my feelings yesterday, then it provokes your empathy. And I was seeing the same thing between liberals and conservatives, of both sides just criticizing and yelling and attacking. And what I saw was, at least on my side, in myself, when a conservative would say something mean about liberals, it would hurt my feelings. But I and others on my side wouldn't ever say, ow, that kind of hurts. What we would say is, you're a racist, or you're wrong, or you're backward, or you're a fascist. It's just attack. And then they're hurt by that naturally because that hurts their feelings. And instead of saying that hurts my feelings, or even knowing that it hurts their feelings, they attack back. Well, you're a commie, or you're whatever, everyone understands. And I said in 2016 that the reason why Trump got elected was because of this problem, because the conservatives were sick of being attacked by liberals. So if we're going to soften the conservatives, which is what we have to fucking do, we cannot be attacking them relentlessly. Do they deserve to be attacked or criticized at times? Yeah, but not relentlessly. It's the same if you're in a marriage and you're like, how come we keep fighting all the time? everyone's participating in it, and you can't change your partner's behavior, but you can change yours. And typically, if you change yours, it changes the system.
So I saw David Byrne of the Talking Heads. I saw his solo show. It's incredible visually. All these things about it were amazing. But one of the things
In Seattle?
Yeah. One of the things that he was talking about was how caring is the most punk rock thing that you can do right now. And I've really been taking that to heart. Maybe that's why I'm giving away my painting. It's like I keep thinking about Tip O'Neill. Remember? He was the Speaker of the House forever when we were kids. And it was always like, God knows what he was really like. But he was always talked about as like reaching across the aisle. Like we built coalitions and we made this happen.
But let me just ask you, just in summary, Rebecca, do you see this happening where people will get hurt, and instead of expressing that hurt politically online or at Thanksgiving or just online, and instead of saying ouch that hurts, they will get angry, and then that just spirals? Yeah,
and I avoid it like the plague. I mean, I think I use the internet really differently than most people do. I there's a lot of queer people I know that are like bouncing on and off of social media constantly. People are constantly taking breaks, and I think, oh, wow, I must be using this really differently, that like I don't see things that infuriate me as much. So, yes, I do psychically protect myself from the anger and vitriol. Is that
vitriol?
The word? Vitriol of this time, because I have to stay sane. And I surround myself with love and laughter and a lot of joy also, because things are really hard.
I think one of the factors for people like you and me is that for our entire careers, not only as therapists, but as professors as well, we've been fighting social justice the whole time.
Yeah.
And have reckoned with the arc of history bends towards justice, or it takes a long time. And whatever grieving we had to go through in our 20s or something to reckon with the reality that it takes time, like the fact that you have at the Grammys a black gay woman that is called up on stage, and a song, and a country music guy that brings her on stage. That would never have happened 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. It would have been a scandal. The network would have refused because they would have worried about the majority of Americans that hated gay people would ban the show or would riot. I mean, literally, when Ellen came out as gay on her show, we look back on it and think like, oh, yay. But, there were a lot of fucking angry, freaked out people in America.
Yeah, her career tanked for a decade after that.
I mean, people were like insane about it. Oh my God, there's a gay woman. Like, I was watching a gay, like it was, you're trying to make our kids gay. You're going to rape our kids. I mean, literally, we've heard those things, but it was the majority opinion back then. And so we have won. The arc of history has definitely bent towards justice. We have a long way to go. But, and so my experience is that for people that have regular jobs where social justice isn't the core of what they're doing all the time, every day, they feel all this pent up energy. They want to do something. And so the one thing they can do is yell at people on Twitter. And so that's what they do. Whereas people like you and me, it's like, okay, but there's things you can do on the ground in your life.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting to me when somebody says to me, like, I didn't like the last podcast. I didn't like what you were doing. And I was like, great, then you do it. Like, the level of fucks I have to give.
Wait, what are you saying?
I'm like, great, you do it.
No, what was the first part of that?
When somebody yells at me or doesn't like what I have done.
On the podcast?
On the podcast or in a class I'm teaching or...
Just in general?
Like the way I phrase something in a class. Like it was interesting, the last time I taught the menopause class, I said, our society doesn't function if you take all the postmenopausal women out and all of the free labor that they offer. And then I also a little bit later said... because people ask me all the time, is menopause worse now? And I'm like, no, menopause is just existing now because previous to this time in history, everyone was dead by 50 or 55 from like an impacted tooth or syphilis. And this woman kind of like, it kind of got kind of rough. She was like, how can those two things be true? I was like, well, I'm talking about the past over here. I'm talking about like modern life over here. And I could just feel like the tension building.
What was the tension exactly?
I think it was like she didn't think those two things could be simultaneously true.
But what's the diff? I mean,
but this is like a classic argument, right? It's like, who cares that you see the world slightly different than I do?
Right.
But if someone's going to really get into it with me, I'm like, fine, you do a 6-hour presentation on menopause. Like, yeah. I mean, they say this about postmenopause that you just have zero fucks, and like, I totally feel it now.
Yeah, that one lady that we share online, that she's like
Melanie, or We Do Not Care Club.
We Do Not Care Club.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's interesting to be like, so I feel like one of the questions here is, would I get into a fight with people online about my opinion? And the answer is no. I don't like it. And I just want to say to this patron, I completely understood why you took it down, and I'm so sorry there's no intelligent space to have this conversation with. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even know if that was a complete sentence, but.
Now, one thing I will say to Megan from New York is, it's up to you, of course. Do what you got to do, particularly with the doxing part of it. But I don't know exactly what you were saying in this post, but one thing you could say that I recommend that all of us do is, at the very least, lead with how it felt for us, because that can help move the needle, I think. Mm-hmm. So if you made a post and you just said, hey, I made this post and, maybe I was wrong. I don't know. I don't know everything, but I was trying to say this and that. And I got a lot of different responses, some supportive, some neutral, some negative. And the negative sorts of things I was getting, it really hurt my feelings and kind of made me afraid. And then just elaborate on those feelings without being accusatory. Don't say, I was afraid because people are assholes, or I was afraid because people are extreme, or I was afraid because people were, I don't know, Russian bots or something. Just say it was, I don't know what my hope was in making the post, but it just really hurt when someone said X, Y, and Z. And I took it down because I don't know, I felt confused, and I just felt hurt. I just wanted people to know that. And I don't know what sort of response you're going to get from people, but.
Right. And this is one of the changes of our modern world, is that the responses you get that are incredibly negative could be from a bot.
Right.
That's different.
Yeah. And, I don't know if people hear me say this enough, but I'll say it again, that we hear online, and maybe less so today, but there was a time when the go-to phrase was, that's offensive, or I'm offended by that. And that's fine, but I encourage people to, at the very least, acknowledge to themselves that in all likelihood what is happening is they're hurt. And the offendedness is at the hurt, at the unfairness that they perceive as happening or that they're experiencing. And that acknowledgement inside oneself, and particularly, outwardly, and communicating that, is almost always not there. Mm-hmm. And if you have if someone at work says something, and you say that's offensive, and you point your finger, I don't know what sort of response you're going to get. Whereas if you say, that thing you did, it hurt my feelings, or that thing you did, or this policy at work feels unfair to me. I feel unfairly treated. I don't know if it's unfair, but it feels unfair to me. That is, in my experience, much more in the same way with my couples. It's much more likely to provoke empathy and understanding in a conversation and compromise than pointing a finger and saying, you're a narcissist, or you're gaslighting me, or you offended me, or you're a racist, or you're a fascist. I keep saying the same thing, but anyway. Do you have time for one more email?
Yeah.
Patron May from Iowa. She says, I listened to an episode with Rebecca where a question was asked about how therapists are trained, and I remember Dr. Honda saying something like, therapy training has gone bad. Just chiming in here. Do you remember me saying that? That surprises me, because that's not my position, that therapy training has gone bad.
were like, it's gone downhill. It's not as good.
I said that?
Yes. You were like, where are the deep thinkers? Yeah.
Well, maybe I've changed my mind, but one, I don't really know the state of training because there's too many fucking programs. There's thousands of them. And to generalize, I don't know. Plus, in my experience as someone who, was a program director and taught in a program until rather recently, I wouldn't say we were worse than when I was going through graduate school. So let me, before going on with the email, let me clarify my opinion. I was hoping, Rebecca, you would say that's not my memory, but apparently it was. But sometimes nuance is lost. Like I'll say some more nuanced position, and people will say like, "Oh, Kirk, I know that you don't like this word or something," and I'll be like, "Oh, is that what I said?" Anyway, but apparently I did because there's at least two people that are saying that's what I was saying. So let me be clear that in a lot of ways, programs, and this is just my anecdotal experience, our programs are better now than they were in the past.
Oh.
And here are some things that are, I think, obviously better. One is that the professionalism is a lot higher than it was in the past. The understanding of one's professionalism, the professionalism on behalf of the professors, the indoctrination into a profession is a lot more robust, generally speaking. There's a lot more ethical buttoned-upness, I think, in programs than in the past. Also, the programs are teaching a lot more. Like when you and I went to graduate school in the 90s, you could finish the program, some programs in like a year and a half with internship. You could be done. Now, no way, because we keep increasing the requirements, not only with accreditation and licensing and stuff, but programs themselves are saying we need to add this other class.
Yeah, there's KCREP, which is a governing body for
counseling.
Yeah.
But we also would add things just because half of it was meeting licensure and accreditation, but the other half was just things that we thought we can't. We're not going to feel good about graduating students without having a class on X, Y, and Z. And so we would be doing that as well. And that's better. You would have people that would graduate in the 90s. And I had heard in the 90s that it was better than it was in the 80s. Like in the 80s, I think you could finish in under a year, like in 9 months you could, and back then they didn't have licensure, so it didn't really matter. It was like being a coach essentially. But anyway, so yeah, I think that there's a lot of improvements. Also, internships are more buttoned up. There are more there's more variety.
Even the change. Like when I went to graduate school, we had 2 internships. Year 1 was a little less intense than year 2. When I taught at Antioch, people went all the way through the program, did all their academics, and then they went into internship having no client contact. And I really noticed in the classes, you could tell that people hadn't been working with actual clients. But they changed that as I was leaving, and you would get internship level 1 and internship level 2. So that was a big improvement.
Yeah. Well, you're talking about art therapy specifically, and there's different practices. And like I remember SBU would have people start their internship like in the second quarter or something anyway. But there are anecdotally some worse things, like there's more CBT, which is fine as a theory and as a technique, but it's way more emphasized now, generally speaking, in my anecdotal experience than it was in the past. There's less humanistic emphasis, less depth emphasis for a variety of reasons. Also, because of the professionalism in these programs, they are hiring, generally speaking, more academic professionals rather than clinical professionals. So you'll have professors that have a good resume when it comes to academic stuff like publishing and the degree they have and other kinds of professorships that they've done or something. But they might not have much experience as a therapist, whereas when you and I were going to school, this is anecdotally, that the professors, generally speaking, were much more likely to be clinicians first and professors second, whereas more so now it seems like at the opposite. I mean, I would have professors in my program that I would hire that would have an excellent resume when it came to being a professor, being an academic, but had fairly minimal experience actually working with clients. And so I would, have them teach classes that were good at, that fit their skill set.
Like research.
Yeah, right. But I would get people with the primary identity of a therapist, and maybe having been a therapist for 20 years, I would get them to teach things like case consultation, other kind of stuff. Anyway, but going on with the email. I'm currently so for the record, I'm saying that there's pros and cons to the current state of programs as opposed to the past. Going on with the email. I am currently in graduate school for MFT. The duration of the program is 2 years, and we do a block system, so most classes are either 5 weeks or 10 weeks, and I hate it. There is so much to learn and dive into, and I feel like we don't get enough into the time to build a foundation. I know not everything we learn is in graduate school, but we should at least get a strong foundation. Just chiming in here for a second. Yeah, I think that's universal regardless of the style of the graduate school, that all students feel like there's not enough time or depth. So it's possible that this block system might be making it worse, but it's also possible that you're just feeling the normal feeling that students have with regards to the lack of satisfaction of feeling like they're getting enough information or enough time. There's just too much to learn. But anyway, I know this is not Dr. Honda's responsibility, and honestly, you are one of my inspirations to get into this field alongside Esther Pearl. Is it possible to make a new clinician's guide either on this website or on Patreon, basically providing resources for these areas: philosophical foundations, skill foundations, in the therapy room foundations, self of the therapist foundations, including transference, ethical foundations, a guide on how to pick or integrate a model? It would be tremendously appreciated if you could make it, and I would personally make sure to share it with all of my cohorts. Thanks for all you do. Any thoughts on this, Rebecca?
Yeah, this is a lifelong learning career. There is room for you to be a beginner and feel overwhelmed and feel like you don't know enough. That's a real common experience of being an early clinician. Hold on, I'm going to sneeze or something.
Okay, she's touching her nose.
Didn't happen.
She's almost about to sneeze.
But it didn't happen. Yeah, I would also say this experience is really typical, that people leave graduate school saying, like, I don't know enough. And it's interesting in the modern world that we live in, people are like, yeah, there wasn't a class on private practice and I don't know how to market myself. And I was like, oh, that's not really the job of graduate school in my perception. But then I hear there's new programs where like that is part of the focus. So you will go out in the world and do great service serving your clients, and you'll continue to learn and read more books and take more classes and find mentors and find things that you like. And I'm not the same therapist that I was when I started at all. And this is also a field where you can spend a crap load of money to become the therapist.
Right.
I'm certified. I was a board certified art therapist. I'm trained in level 1 and 2 of sensory motor psychotherapy. I just spent a crap load of money to get certified or to begin my training to become a certified sex therapist. Like, this is a field where the training doesn't end. So I would say be open to being a beginner for a long time. And Kirk, if you could produce all that stuff, that's cool. But it also is constantly changing. And so what an early clinician would need now is going to be completely different in 5 years. But there are all these books on these topics. But I would just say, it sounds like you want to know everything right now, and it's okay that you don't.
Yeah, it's great that you do want to know everything, and it's a good sign that you recognized that there's so much to learn and so little time. I'd be worried if you didn't think that, honestly, and just get used to it, because that's just going to be the way that it is. Maybe for the next 10 years, maybe 20 years. For me, I had the luxury of being a professor, so I could nerd out on topics for my job, right? As a therapist, you're seeing clients all week. You don't really have time to nerd out on a theory or something.
But the learning you get from the clients is the actual learning. I mean, that's
certainly a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the piece that I was always interested in young clinicians who were like, I need to learn Spanish, or I need to do this other thing. And I'm like, oh my God, just go sit with your clients. Like, there's so much learning there.
Yeah.
And that's the learning of frustration. That's watching how slow people integrate behavior change. That's sitting with people that have experiences way outside of what you know about. Don't knock the experience of being with clients to think like there's some miracle theory out there. And we've been at this so long. We've watched all these trainings move through. Like, everybody had to get trained in cognitive behavioral, and then everybody had to get trained in dialectical behavior therapy, and then everybody had to get trained in EMDR, and then everybody has to get trained in internal family systems. And like, we've watched all of these, cycles go through, and who knows, emotionally focused therapy. Like, there's always some new theory that people love, and that's great. But if you're in this long enough, you'll have watched many, many, many concepts roll through.
I hate to say this, but one way to think about it is that graduate school is like the Wikipedia page. No one would think that by reading the Wikipedia page on therapy or the Wikipedia page on Seattle would give you enough experience to fully feel like you comprehend the topic, right? And it sucks that this is true, but it is. There's just too much to learn.
Yeah, time is actually your friend.
Yeah.
And here, both you and I are, having spent our entire adult lives in this same field that some people spin in and out of in 6 months or a year. Some of it is learning to tolerate the work, which is like not always fun and sometimes really awful. And it's really interesting, like, now that I'm moving into couples counseling for the first time in my career, so late in my career, I'm like, oh, couples counseling is fascinating. Like, people really feel worse after a session, and it's not my job to, like, in individual counseling, like, if someone feels worse, I can usually put one person together enough to send them out. And often at the end of a couples counseling session, I'm like, good luck, you guys. Like, I can see we feel worse. Good work, everyone. Like, you're sitting with all these, like, really difficult experiences. And some of that is just knowing, like, I might not see, the change might not happen in my office, and that's okay, because at least people showed up. So, yeah, I would say being a young therapist is incredibly frustrating.
Yeah.
And often now the way your field works is you're early in your training, and you're working with the lowest functioning people in our society. And that's just really hard. And there's this whole experience of learning to sit with that a whole lot of people's lives are just awful.
Well, and the experience of working with people that might not want to be in therapy.
Oh, yeah. The court ordered or all kinds of stuff shows up.
Or just at agencies, there just tends to be a lot, on average, more people who are at least a little bit more ambivalent about being in therapy. Whereas in private practice, almost all the time, depending on the population, but for the most part, people are coming to you. They're really desperate to go to therapy. They've been looking for the right therapist for a long time. They're paying a lot of money for it. Anyway, the last thing I'll say is that you say, you're asking for a clinician's guide. I have episodes on all of those things ad nauseum, by the way. So if you go on Patreon or on YouTube and you just search for those terms, I've talked probably too often about all of those things.
Yeah, or I just texted you while I was taking like the 10,000th ethics class that I ever took. Like, there's always a new requirement. Some little thing got changed, and here I am sitting in yet another training.
Well, it's also specific to jurisdictions. Mm-hmm. Like in Washington State, we have a different court precedent / legal situation than another state. So yeah, I'm not going to provide that level of detail, but in terms of the general ethical foundations across all professions, and as you know, so I would just Google those topics anyway.
And so this was, maybe I've already, did I tell the miniature pony story? Have I told this story?
I don't think so.
It's like, so I was seeing this person for art therapy supervision. They drove a very long way to see me once a month. And they were doing therapy in a small town in Washington State. And they were young and eager and ready to learn. And they were talking to somebody who'd been in agency work for like 20 years and said to them, like, what training should I take next? What should I do? How should I enrich myself? And the older clinician, or the longer careered clinician, said, oh no, you should find a hobby that brings you joy. My joy is I race miniature ponies. And I thought that advice was great. Like, you know what? We want you to have a long career in this. And it's actually, some of it is what you know, but also some of it is your ability to cope and find joy outside of work. Because work, you'll have some killer days in this work. You'll see some dark. Oh my God! When I worked in the South Bronx, like every day was like that was the darkest, most horrific story I've ever heard, and sometimes it was going down right in front of me. So yeah, find joy, and build an outside life, so that you can show up to your clients.
You're going to have a long career,
yeah,
and set up your life so that you can sustain that over time, and understand that everything takes time, and there's no way to rush it, because you can't rush it. You can't rush wisdom and understanding
but what you bring
confident.
is enthusiasm and excitement. And like I had an experience recently where I'm seeing one family member, and they said, hey, could you see this really disgruntled family member who doesn't want to come to therapy? And I was like, hey, at this point in my career, I'm going to say no.
Yeah.
Like, let someone who's like early in their career and enthusiastic to sit with that.
Well, what? So the person was willing to come to therapy but didn't really want to be there?
I don't think the person wanted to come to therapy at all.
Like at all?
I think the family members wanted the
person. No. I mean, to some extent, ethically, we can't work with people that don't want to be there.
Yeah.
So,
but it was interesting to be like earlier in my career, if I heard like, hey, this person's kind of resistant or conflicted, I might have said, sure, bring it on. And now I'm like, the old, tired. No.
Well, I don't even think it's a matter of tired. I mean, you didn't work with kids the way that I did, and if you work with kids and teens, you get a lot of kids and teens who do not want to be in therapy, but are willing to be driven to therapy, and you realize just how worthless it can be, and how much it's just a total waste of time. Some kids and teens absolutely loved being in therapy, especially if I was able to connect with them and find a way to make it interesting or fun or useful or meaningful to them. But some people, it's just never going to happen, or it's not going to happen with you or something. And turning that down, I was a luxury that I only had once my career was better and my money situation was better. But as soon as that was true, I immediately was like, no, I'm not going to work with those people. They don't want to work with me. So, the fact that they're willing to get in the car and they're willing to walk into my office doesn't say anything to the viability of actually working with them. We're just wasting everyone's time. I don't care how much you pay me, It's one of the most, that the minute hand on the clock never moves as slow as it does when you're working with a client that doesn't want to be in therapy. Anyway, well, on that note, the minute hand is almost at 2 hours. This is a long episode.
Yeah.
Everyone out there, please take care of yourself, because
it's really hard out there, and we care about you.